Hey YouTube, hope we're all having a fantastic day out there. Welcome to the channel. Today I wanted to start a little bit of a discussion on slugging in Dead by Daylight. I know I am by no means the first person to start a topic of conversation like this, but I think slugging looks a little bit different in our modern day current state of Dead by Daylight than it has in the past, and I think we're at a really interesting point. So I wanted to bring up some discussion and also hear what all of you think. Before we jump in, I do want to just explain very quickly to those who don't know what slugging is. I know there's a lot of DVD lingo out there, and of course there are different people getting into the game at different times. But essentially what slugging is a killer choosing to not immediately hook a survivor or leaving multiple survivors down in order to snowball pressure. This can often happen with killers such as the cannibal, the shape, killers of that nature, but it is not strictly excluded to those killers. I even find myself slugging here and there in matches to regain any lost pressure I've had as killer, and it's a pretty effective strategy given the correct circumstances. So as of recent, I've been hearing about a lot of survivors having some complaints with how often killers are slugging, things of that nature, and I can totally empathize with those complaints. I understand it's a very frustrating thing, but I wanted to bring up the fact of why I think slugging, number one, might be on the rise, and number two, the maybe core issue with it, if there is one. So I think it's a little bit on the rise because over this last little period of Dead by Daylight, we've been seeing things such as generator regression perks being nerfed, and things such as healing speeds for survivors being nerfed, and things such as hemorrhage mangled, those things getting better for killers as well. So I almost feel like killers are being pushed in this direction of making it harder for survivors to heal is becoming more effective than strictly just gen pressure, which I don't think historically has always been the case. And of course, it's fluid. These things change quite a bit as time progresses. So oftentimes killers will slug in order to regain any lost pressure that they've had, whether that be chases, generators, just things of that nature. But I think the interesting point of discussion comes with how this works on the survivor side of things. Typically, when a killer begins to slug, it is due to the fact that multiple survivors are injured in close proximity, and that the killer can fully take advantage of this. It's really hard for a killer to begin slugging oftentimes if multiple survivors are healthy, they're spread out. It makes it incredibly hard, and oftentimes it's not worth the killer's time and pressure to go and attempt to start a slug. Additionally, I would like to separate this out from something I like to call toxic slugging. Toxic slugging to me is essentially when a killer is slugging for no good reason, watching a survivor bleed out, prolonging the game in a non-productive fashion, things of that nature, because I think that's where things such as the PTB from a while back, base kit unbreakable, those things come into play, and that's the discussion I sort of want to have here, because although that PTB didn't play out quite as perfectly as people wanted, and it doesn't seem like behavior wants to move forward with these changes, I'm curious what your thoughts are, and if you think toxic slugging is problem enough to introduce something of that nature to resolve this issue, or if it's just something we're okay with dealing with. Likewise, when killers have a prolonged match from a survivor or two hiding in lockers variously around the map, and the killer just cannot seem to find them in any fashion, it feels like a similar thing. But topic of discussion is slugging, and I'm curious if people who play Survivor a ton, do you run into toxic slugging very often? And if so, do you have ideas for solutions, and possibly constructive solutions for killers, so that maybe we can still have this element of slugging without losing large amounts of pressure just from the base kit gameplay? Because I do think slugging is a really important attribute to a killer's play style. Without slugging, there's a lot of lost pressure and a lot of lost time, I think. So I think it's important to sort of find this nice balance of the two, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts below, and if anyone has something they've thought up that they think might work really well for this. But anyways, I wanted to say I don't personally find slugging to be the largest issue in Dead by Daylight. I do think it can be incredibly frustrating, and I sympathize with players that, you know, sometimes maybe even have a few matches a night where they're dealing with this sort of issue. At its core, though, it's hard because, again, I think it is important for a killer's kit, but it's also frustrating for survivors to have to deal with. And not always the most fun to go against. And I think that's really important. Yes, we do want to take into consideration numerics, values of perks, things of that nature, how the game is played on different levels, whether it be competitive or extremely casual. But at the end of the day, Dead by Daylight is a game and people play games to have fun, right? So again, I do think it's important to consider every aspect of this conversation and every style and level of play. All the while, you know, I think it would be interesting if we could find a way to make slugging less frustrating for survivors while still being just as effective for killers. And that's sort of what I wanted to do with this video, was hear your thoughts. But nonetheless, thank you for taking the time to watch this video today. I sincerely do appreciate it. And I'm curious to know what you all think, and if you are facing slugging issues in your matches, and if you think it's a problem in Dead by Daylight, or if you think it's something that should be put on the back burner and dealt with at another time. But nonetheless, thank you all so much for watching. Take care, take it easy, and we will catch you in the next one.